former president. Let's take a listen at what he had to say.
My PA, that from the ANC side, was phoned by a person she does not know. And this person said, "You must tell Zuma that we are going to kill him. We'll also kill his children, as well as some people around him." So she informed me this morning. And I'm sure, Chair, you will recall that I said a lot about how my life has been attempted. But also, my senior counsel, Advocate Skakane, this follows threats that have been made to him, very serious ones as well.
So, let's start with whether or not he expanded on those allegations. From whom were these threats? You mentioned his family. Were they specifically directed at anyone?
No, he didn't, Tsepiso. In fact, I think because the commission adjourned earlier than we had expected, he had said at the end, so he'd be able to expand more. He even spoke about the son, his son that died last year, basically saying he now knows that actually what caused, who was responsible for the death of his son. So he was...
Is he then implying that there could have been something untowards in his son's death, even that he may have been murdered?
Essentially, that's what he was saying. So it's unfortunate that the commission, in fact, at the request of his lawyer, they asked that the commission be adjourned, because I think he did show signs as well of being tired.
Stress, yes.
Remember, yesterday he had said he had flu. I mean, even Advocate Pretorius had suggested that, I mean, if he wanted an early adjournment, it could be taken, but he seemed to want to go on. But I'm sure his lawyers know him better, so they asked for the adjournment. So as a result, so we're not able then to benefit from what exactly is it that he wanted to tell us about these issues around death threats. So,
Mzwandile, a lot of toing and froing around Fakey Mentor, including the text that should have been or would have been provided to him. Let's just take a look at the questions that the state prosecutor was asking.
She then continues in her statement to say that at that stage she became angry, began to speak very loudly, and she had become what she refers to as confrontational, and I'm referring to paragraph 92. And it was at that moment, she says, that you entered the room, and that she immediately informed you of the quote-unquote offer that had been made, and that you didn't react to that communication but tried to calm her down. That is the essence of what she says in the remaining paragraphs. I'm not sure.
No, there's nothing of that nature. I know nothing of entering some room.
Have you ever been at the Gupta residence at the same time as her?
No.
No.
Never.
So that was really the crux of the matter, whether or not the two were reportedly in one place where this offer was made. How did he answer on why this was impossible? He already did say he at some point thought he couldn't recall her, but then did recall her. But how did he explain the fact that this was improbable?
That was very interesting, perhaps the issue around Fikimento, because obviously the commission hasn't taken any decision on her evidence, but there are some issues that are known at this stage. So for now, they haven't been able to establish the veracity of her travels between Johannesburg and Cape Town. So I think, as Mr. Zuma would say, I think the only answer he could possibly give, given that he does know about this issue, was that there had never been an interaction, because it would have created a bit of more confusion. But when it comes to whether he knew Fikimento, he basically said, when the name was first mentioned to him, that she had said what she had said. So the first thing, when they drafted that statement, so he couldn't recall who that person was. But later on, when he saw the pictures, said, actually, I do know who Fikimento is. But insofar as those interactions about the Guptas and everything related to it, he denied it outright.
So I want to take us back to the day itself, some texts exchanges seen between the legal teams, which had them end up in the chambers of Deputy Chief Justice Zondo. I believe the defense was unhappy with the line of questioning. What exactly transpired there?
You see what happened at Tsepiso there? I think as Advocate Pretorius continued to really probe to find out some clarity on a number of issues, defense basically was saying, so it looks to them as if this is a cross-examination. And remember, they are there at the invitation of the commission. They are the guests of the commission. So they were not provided with questions or with issues that had been raised by witnesses. So anything that is happening there for them, it's new. So they felt perhaps it was a bit unfair. But I think the judge perhaps took charge of this.
Let's take a watch, Mzwandile, and then see.
Chair, we, together with just the legal team, we have a duty to raise concerns.
Yes.
When we see a development in the manner in which our client is being cross-examined. Essentially what is going on now is that Mr. Pretorius is cross-examining Mr. Zuma. He's cross-examining about issues we are not clear about insofar as the terms of reference are concerned. We, as you recall, Mr. Chair, Mr. Zuma has read this affidavit. We have read it. We took the view that it does not implicate the president in any of the terms of reference that this commission is about. That is the attitude we took. Now, of course, in your discretion, you decided the president should come and address and take and give his version of events. What is going on now is not Mr. Pretorius assisting Mr. Zuma to give his version. What he's doing, he's cross-examining him.
And so certainly anybody who was watching that could see how that then affected the exchange between Advocate Pretorius and the chair. At some point, the judge even having to ask Advocate Pretorius what he meant or what was the rationale behind those questions. But what kind of tone does it set for going forward? I know Barbara Hogan is going to be further under the spotlight tomorrow.
Oh, yes. And I was just about to say, after that interaction at Tsepiso, I think the judge took charge. I mean, when he called them to the chambers, remember, Mr. Zuma is there at the request, at the invitation of the judge. He wouldn't, I don't think he would allow a situation where it was going to be collapsed, it was going to be postponed. So he basically told them, obviously in agreement, to say this will continue. There will have to be a bit of compromise. If there is a feeling that perhaps Pretorius is going harder, so they would be able to talk to him. And if the legal team as well, they can't be standing up and down. But if there is indeed a situation which they deem extreme, they could. And I think that was setting the tone for the next witnesses. We had just started with the issue of Barbara Hogan, but nothing in detail was done. And remember, there's still about 4 or 5 more other witnesses that were mentioned. Remember those people who had spoken about former president.
Thank you very much, Mzwandile. Senior SABC political reporter Mzwandile Mbeje, who is at that state capture hearings.